You know, the last couple Ozark Trail knives I checked out, I was actually really impressed with. I did my review of the Ozark Trail Sonder, aka the Bug Out Killer Ultimate $10 knife, whatever you want to call it. And I was impressed with it. Not only did I like the knives, I actually thought the review video did pretty well in terms of how many viewers it got. But then I reviewed the Elevation and Valor, and holy hell, that video took off. At the time of this video's recording, I think it's up to 85,000 views or something like that. Lots of very interesting comments, people going back and forth, trading stories about the quality control and their experiences and arguing over, Ozark Trail versus the big name companies, so on and so forth. And it made me both excited but also nervous to review the Glacier, which is the knife we're looking at today. Because, as you can see, I've got some use on this Ozark Trail. And this is a really cool knife in a lot of ways, but a massive downgrade in so many others. And I'm going to give my honest-to-God thoughts. If the video does well, it does well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The point of a review is not to be entertainment, but to let people know whether or not they should buy the knife. As a result, I welcome the comment section to be treated like an open forum of conversation and discussion where you share your own experiences with these, because I imagine that the Glacier, just like the Sonder, just like the Elevation, just like the Valor, and a few other Ozark Trails I'm going to review here in the future, such as the Multi-Force Multi-Tool and the Nimbus, they're going to be subject to a lot of quality control variants simply due to how many of these are being cranked out for mass production to be sold at a very low price. All that being said, this is a very fun fidgety knife. I think it would make a great desk knife, but I'm not so sure I would make this an everyday carry knife. And let's talk about why. By the way, the packaging was a simple blister card. I do still have it. It's in my shed. I'm not going to go out there and get it. Here's our blade. It is 3 1/4 inches long, and it's a drop point. It's a very clipped drop point. I would almost call it a hybrid blade design, but a beautiful drop point, very utilitarian. We're hollow ground from about the midsection of the blade downwards. Okay, so nice hollow grind, and also a very nice black coating. I've done a lot of cardboard cutting with this. For those who don't know, my standard testing with any knife steel is if it's a lower to medium grade steel, I will put it through 75 cuts through cardboard and see how it does. And if it's a higher grade steel, it doubles. I go 150 cuts through cardboard. And then after the 75 or 150 cuts, depending on the steel, I will see if it can still slice paper. If the knife can still slice paper after that many cuts, then I call it good enough. I call it good enough for an EDC knife, because that's equal to the wear and tear the average person, not us knife people who go out of our way to use our knives, but the average person will put on their knife in months, if not a whole year, before needing a resharpen. So yeah, this one went 75 cuts through cardboard. The coating held up very well. I really should clean this blade, but whatever. It at least shows it's been used. The edge is dull. The edge is extremely dull, and I haven't sharpened it up. I'm sure I could touch it up in no time, slap it on my Lansky croc stick set or my Spyderco Sharp Maker, and bring this thing back to a screaming edge. But it did dull, and it wasn't surprising that it did, because it's made out of 3CR13. Now, for those of you who don't know, 3CR13 is China's equivalent to a 420J2, which for nicer knife companies is the stuff they put in liners. It's what they line your handles with. It's not really a great blade steel. It has good corrosion resistance, actually excellent corrosion resistance, and it sharpens up very quickly, taking a beautiful edge. It just won't hold it for a very long time. Will it hold it long enough for everyday carry? I mean, realistically, for the average person, probably, but it's a little low end even for me. I will long be an advocate of even AUS 6, 7CR17, 440A, 4116, even 4034 Krupp, all being acceptable everyday carry steels, for realistic average cutting tasks. But I have a very hard time with 3CR13. It just dulls so readily that even I'm a little hesitant to really recommend it. So I'm not a fan of the blade steel. It did slice really, really well. I will say that. This thing breezed through cardboard because it is a very thin blade paired with that high hollow grind. It just lasered through everything. We do have a very fine penetrative tip. Okay, punctures all your boxes and clamshells and bubble mailers and everything else, no problem whatsoever. Which is why I think this would be a great desk knife. You know, you just sit this up on your computer desk and whip it open, cut open your packages, fold it back closed, toss it aside, not reach for it again until it's time to open something else again. And maybe when you brought your microwave burrito back to your computer desk and you know, you don't want to wait for it to cool down because you're impatient, you slice through it with this thing. You know, whatever it is y'all are doing with y'all's desk knives, I think it would be fine for that. I'm not real sure about EDC, though. I think 3CR13 is really pushing it as being too soft for a consistent everyday use steel. I'm not really a fan. The blade is overall a great design. It's just really hindered by that steel, which is baffling to me because at the like $7.99 this comes in at, $8, they definitely could have made this 8CR13 MOV, or at least even 7CR17 MOV. Considering that they did fucking D2, sorry for the cussing, they did D2 on the Sonder, they definitely could have done something better on this. And so yeah, I actually am a little angry about that, mostly because this exact company has proven that they can put much better steels in their knives for not much more. So at this price level, yeah, they definitely could have used something a little nicer. Okay, that's enough rambling about that. Not a big fan of the blade steel. I am a big fan of the blade shape, the blade grind, the coating. Do y'all remember whenever cold steel would give us coating that scraped off if we looked at it a little too hard or if it scraped our cell phone in our pocket? Now we got Ozark Trail that has coating that holds up to serious cardboard cutting. What a time to be a knife collector. Deployment and lockup, it comes out fast. I mean, the deployment is smooth. This is riding on bearings, which, yet again, absolutely wild to get on a $7 or $8 knife from frickin' Walmart. There was a time when ball bearings were a very premium feature. I bet a lot of y'all out there remember when the CRKT Ripple came out, and it was a huge deal that there was a $30 version of that knife that had a ball bearing pivot system. We couldn't believe it. We could not believe it. Phosphor bronze was the gold standard for production knives, and ceramic bearings and ball bearings, those were the things that were only found in high-end customs. And then CRKT gave it to us on a $30 knife. And it was huge. It was a big deal. CRKT had the IKBS partnership, and it was a huge thing for us. Now you can go to Walmart and get one at the same time you're buying toilet paper for $7.99. What a time to be a knife enthusiast. It's crazy. But yeah, it comes out fast. It's very smooth. Lockup, I have no play up and down, which is very impressive for such a cheap knife with a crossbar or axis lock. Side to side, I do have a little bit right now. Okay, you see that? I could easily adjust that out of the pivot point, which is dual-sided, so we can also make sure our centering is perfect, which in this case, yeah, it is. Very cool. Great deployment and lockup. The thumb studs, very simple step design. We've seen them 1,000 times in 1,000 other knives. They work just fine. We can get good traction against them. We could flick the knife out nice and fast. The crossbar lock or axis lock does work very well. This one's actually a little stouter on the spring than I think a lot of these cheaper axis type locks are using. But, you know, we can whip the knife open and close with it if we want to fidget with it. So, yeah, I say the deployment and lockup is great. The handle is polypropylene, and it's 4 1/4 inches long. Okay? This one happens to be the white version or light gray. They also have a dark gray version, and I think a few other colorations as well. It is a good-looking handle, and it is fairly ergonomic. I say fairly because there are some sharp transitions on this polypropylene scale here. Okay? Or it's, you know, whenever you're squeezing the knife and bearing down on it, the fat of your fingers gets in there, and it's not the most comfortable. It's a little rough. I would probably take some fine sandpaper and go in there and smooth that out. Additionally, like with a lot of looped over clips, I can feel this clip in my hand, so it creates a little bit of a hot spot. And did you see that issue there? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the clip. But the handle is moderately ergonomic, not super comfortable. The Sonder is definitely a much more comfortable knife in the hand. Now, part of that is also due to the inherent thinness of this knife. This is yet another knife that is trying to go for that bug-out type of feel. Okay, it wanted to be non-steel lined, except where necessary, super, super thin, and super, super light. And as a result, it's sacrificing some of its ergonomics by not being so hand-filling. Contrasting this, my EDC today is a Benchmade 551 Griptilian. This one's an older one in 154 cm. That's a fat handle on that thing. Okay, super fat handle. Comfortable as hell in the hand, though. The Ozark Trail, super thin, not nearly as comfortable in the hand. It does still work. We have a little bit of this jimping on the liner for our axis lock. It's useless, and don't feel too bad. It's the same on actual Benchmades. So, I'd say the handle's fine. Not outstanding, but at least it looks good. Okay, let's talk about that pocket clip. This is such a disappointment because this was going to be something I praised about this knife over the Sonder until I had this issue. So, you can see it's a loop over deep carry clip. It does carry fairly deep. Some of the knife will be exposed. Here's the old cutlery lever pocket. There you go. That's how much knife you have exposed from the pocket. By comparison to the Sonder, about the same. Okay, so yeah, carries well. And I love that it doesn't flare up on that tip. One of the big criticisms I laid against the Sonder was how much that clip angles upwards, which means it's likely to snag on car doors and all sorts of stuff, seat belts, door frames, and possibly bend out, pop the knife out of your pocket, scratch the living hell out of anything you pass by. This one's better. It doesn't flare up dramatically, and it's not sticking off the knife super high, so it's creating less of a hot spot than certain clips would. But I was curious. I was thinking maybe I could take this clip and put it on my Sonder. You can't. The mounting dimensions are different for the plate that seats into the handle here, or sits on top of the handle, seats into the handle in the case of this Sonder. So no, you can't swap them out. However, whenever I was trying to put them back in, I heard something hit the little metal dish that I kept underneath the knife, and it was one of these fasteners. It was one of these brass threaded rivets, and it was specifically the one that holds that back screw. So that back screw is not seated properly. It's just going straight into that polypropylene, and as a result, the clip is not firmly affixed. If I pop this around enough, I could probably pop that screw clear out. Yep, you see? I just did pop that screw clear out because it was not properly affixed in there due to no longer having that brass threaded rivet. So, is that a one-off issue? Probably. Probably will happen to a few of you out there. Again, it speaks to the inherent quality control issues of these super cheap Walmart knives. Okay, super affordable, yes, but also super cheap. Okay, in every sense of the word. So keep that in mind. Another issue with the screws is they do mushroom cap up, so they can interfere with really thick pants. That can be a problem. The handles are super thin. As you can see, they are non-steel lined, and that does lead this knife to being very, very light. So let's break out our little drug dealer scale and see how much this knife weighs. 2.1 ounces. That's honestly extremely light. Extremely light, which would make it very easy to carry. By the way, you have a very large lanyard bail there, so you can affix whatever kind of lanyard and paracord you possibly could ever want. So if you just don't want to even wear that clip at all, you just want to throw this straight in your pocket, go for it. Clip tension, by the way, didn't mention this, very strong. Very, very strong and stout clip tension. Love to see that. Competitive options. Let's go ahead and get through this segment. I love this segment. I steal it from Nut and Fancy for a reason. Obviously, I'm going to show you the Benchmade, the Ozark Trail Sonder. D2 steel, glass reinforced nylon handles, fully steel lined on this one. A crossbar lock that actually extends from the handle. Something about this I forgot to mention. You can see it's kind of set inward, so you had to dig the fat of your finger and thumb in to actuate it. This one, not so much. So, a little easier to actuate. $2 more, hell of a lot better blade steel. I would go for the Sonder, honestly. You knew that. You already knew that. One I have to show you again, Flitza, model 2580, 14C 28N. Also super thin, non-steel lined, synthetic handles. Has a similar situation of the crossbar lock being seated into that handle, though. So, being fair, I will give it that. More ergonomic in the hand, though. Definitely a better clip. Mostly because it doesn't come, the screws don't come popping out of it. Love this pink color on this one. Also comes in blue and green. Price tag is about $20, though. Sometimes as high as $25. You could buy 3 of these Glaciers sometimes for the cost of one, $25.80, what I call the Flitz out. I'd rather have the Flitz out, personally. Here's one I haven't showed you yet. Mossy Oak. I forget the model number on this one, but D2 steel. You can see I've been using it, cutting with it. Stonewash blade. Nice, exaggerated drop point. Super comfortable in the hand. Definitely thicker. Okay, fully steel lined. Another clip that doesn't flare out towards the end. People are listening. Good skeletonizing on those stainless steel liners. Synthetic handle, price tag about 16 bucks. I'd pick the Mossy Oak over the Ozark Trail. How about this one? CRKT, sorry, not CRKT, San Renmu Model 707. Now, why'd I make that mistake? Because this is obviously a CRKT drifter. San Renmu made the drifter for CRKT, and then they made their own version and sold it on the Chinese market for about 9 bucks. 8CR 14 MOV steel, fully stainless steel lined, G10 handles, tip down only carry clip. Comfortable little knife, though. Vastly superior performance to the Glacier, but it is smaller. One last one to show you in case you want something from one of the bigger name brands. How about you go for a budget bird? This is the Metal Arc 2 8CR 13 MOV steel. FRN handles on this lightweight model. 4-way swappable clip. Beautiful leaf-shaped blade that is excellent for all things EDC. Pretty comfortable in the hand. Price tag's about 30 bucks, though. Quite a bit more. Is it worth it? Yeah, it is. Being honest with you guys. I really liked the Sonder and the Elevation and the Valor, and for clarification, I don't hate the Glacier. I think it's fine for what it is. I just don't think it rises to the same level as its siblings did. It's a fine knife. It has its role. It has its purpose. But keep your expectations a little bit more realistic. This Glacier might be melting because the value is only lukewarm.